topic is the challenge of executing on supply chain data and visibility. My guest is Krenar Komoni. He is CEO and founder of Tive. Hello, Krenar.
How you doing, Bob?
Great, thanks very much for being with me today. So, I'm just interested in how the increased customer experience has evolved around visibility in the past few years. What's the connection between those two concepts?
It's absolutely, they're very well connected, and it's increased drastically, especially with COVID. I think we've seen a lot of customers wanting things shipped to their houses, obviously not going out, so that experience on the B2C side started also to spill into the B2B, where we saw shipments coming from Amazon, and the experience that we've had, why don't we have that same experience on the B2B side? So we saw tremendous increase from businesses and enterprises wanting better visibility so that they can help their own customers to understand what's happening with the shipments that they're going to their receivers. And what we've seen, 55% of our customers never used trackers before, which is amazing.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Never, I mean, absolutely lacked that visibility up to this point.
Yeah, and it shows that there's huge demand now.
What do you think is the trigger? I mean, an obvious answer would be the pandemic. Is that it? I mean, why are customers suddenly seeing the light and realizing about the need for visibility?
I think one of the main reasons is that they're realizing that this is now possible, and they want visibility today. They don't want something tomorrow or a week from now or 2 weeks from now. So what we've made it pretty simple with I think you're aware of the little trackers that we have where customers place on a shipment. So we made it really simple for them to have visibility today. So we've seen that.
Okay, so it's very important to them. It generates data. Data's great. The more the better, right? Not exactly, because data can also get in the way if we're not making proper use of it. It can actually cloud the issue as opposed to make it clear. Tell me about how you use that data in an effective way to enhance the customer experience.
So data is a challenge, absolutely. So one of the ways to fix that is by normalizing as much of the data as possible, and there's a lot of companies that pull data from various sources and normalize it, which they do a wonderful job. But sometimes it's difficult to even do that because there's gaps in data. For instance, if it's an intermodal shipment or a cross-border shipment or a cross-docking, you miss data around what's happening with the product. But even if you had true data, like for instance, with our trackers and the shipments, that's a lot of data. So what we see is eventually AI and ML will solve a problem where we'll reduce the cloud of too much data, but in between now and by the time AI and ML become proliferated and gets used to across many customers, I believe people and services are going to be the way that we solve that problem. And what I mean by that is people in our company like Tive or other companies will have to filter that data. We'll have to look at that data a little bit, understand what customers' workflows and standard operating procedures are, and then give customers more actionable data or informational data instead of just alerts.
So we're kind of treading water and hoping for AI to come along and save us at some point in the future. In the meantime, it's up to people to save us and to achieve the necessary visibility, despite the fact that there's so much data. The Internet of Things has created a wave of data, and yet you're saying that we'll just make do until then, right?
Well, for another year, 2 years, 3 years, I would say we have to make do with people. And the reason is because if you think of the most global interconnected system in the world today, it's the financial system, but the data is very clean, right? You have $10, I have 10, you give me 2, you have 8, I have 12. It's super clean. But the next most global interconnected system in the world is supply chain logistics, where the data is not as clean yet. As that cleanliness happens in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, I think that's when we'll see more of the AI and ML start to
Okay, so you're
work.
starting to answer my next question basically, and that is how the business model, the model for business innovation is actually driving supply chain change. What technologies are enabling that? Clearly, visibility technology is one, but can you give me a broader picture?
One, I guess on the business model side, one trend that I'm seeing which is kind of interesting and cool is the subscription model. And I know the business is quite transactional if you look at supply chain logistics, but the world is moving more as subscription as a service, right? If you look at Netflix and Disney Plus and all these services. But then you go to Amazon, you want to buy detergent, you actually subscribe to detergent every 2 months, 3 months. So you want to buy toothbrush or toothpaste, you subscribe to that toothbrush or toothpaste for every month or two, and increase predictability around demand, which through the subscriptions actually helps supply chains quite a bit, because then you can plan much better. And the only way we can do that is through tools and through software. But because we didn't have tools and software before, like Amazon and other services, I believe that's gonna help stabilize supply chain logistics in the long term.
Yeah, it sounds like the whole key to profitability, especially for retailers. You just don't sell one product, you make sure that the customer keeps coming back and buying it again and again.
In a predictable manner.
In a predictable manner, and so the technology is here now, you're saying, to support that? Again, is it a game in progress, or is
it's in progress?
Yeah, everything's in progress,
Yes.
but we're still getting there. So I'm just curious as to, in terms of where we're headed, what is it that excites you the most about these innovations and technologies?
There's a lot of things that excite me. I mean, one of the if you think of on the Internet of Things or IoT, what excites me a great deal is where we're going with the hardware. If you think of the innovations that's happened on the radio side and the connectivity, on various sensors, the cost keeps going down and down and down every single year, but also the features increase and proliferate more and more every single year. As that cost curve gets more bent, I believe we're going to be able to have more of these devices throughout the entire supply chain logistics, so we can really understand and have clean data on what's happening with these shipments. There's two more things that really excite me. The next one is collaboration. I believe that as the source of truth becomes more evident on what's happening with the shipment, we're going to be able to enable shippers, receivers, carriers, customs brokers, logistics service providers to easily collaborate around what's happening with the shipment, but at the same time make sure that shipment makes it from point A to point B on time and in full. And that collaboration still hasn't been cracked. I'm really excited to figure out a way with Tive and with other partners to figure out how we can crack that. And the third thing, I think shippers and logistics service providers spend a lot of time monitoring shipments. So they get visibility, we understand where shipments are, but the next phase is what's happening with these shipments. Imagine if all of those mundane tasks, we can create operating leverage for all these companies by lifting, the humans are doing so many mundane tasks. Let's lift that, create operating leverage so we can elevate as humanity and supply chain logistics.
And also determine when you want to see what's going on. You're not looking at it every second of the day. Don't you want like exception reporting? Don't you want to know, at key transition points where things are?
Absolutely.
Doesn't the technology help you to select that and not bother you with information when you don't need it?
Absolutely. So use both software and technology and people to be able to help a lot of logistics service providers and shippers, so they don't have to spend money hiring hundreds and hundreds of people to just manage exceptions.
Thanks so much, Krenar. I really appreciate your insights into this still evolving landscape. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you, Bob.
I was speaking with Krenar Komoni of Tive. Thank you very much for watching.